Welcome back, Warp Fiends. Today on Warhammer Math, we're going to be cracking the toughest nuts in all the Imperium, the Deathwing Knights. I've faced these guys across the table a handful of times, and I hate them. I am personally invested in figuring out exactly how we crush their nuts. First up today, we're going to take a look at their weapons loadouts, where I came to some conclusions that are flat out contrary to the meta. We're going to find out exactly how destructive they are, we're going to test their general durability, and then finally, together, we're going to find some silver bullets so you can destroy them! Also, just to get the news up to speed, my name's Blake. I wrote a custom program that takes an attacking unit and a defending unit and then simulates that attack a million times so that we can see the entire distribution of results. That's the data we're going to be looking at today. All right, let's get into it. So, let's take a look at the Deathwing Knights profile. These boys is mean. So they're only moving 5 inches, toughness 5, 2 up save with a 4 up invuln, 4 wounds apiece, leadership 6, and OC 1. Now, the thing that makes them deeply tough is this inner circle rule. Each time an attack is allocated to a model in this unit, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack.
Holy sweet mother of pearl.
Yeah. 2 up save, 4 up invul, -1 damage.
Holy crap. And with 4 wounds each?
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
So there's a reason that this has been one of the most requested units for analysis. So, I mean, they also have this teleport homer rule. So at the beginning of the game, you can just stick a teleport homer token somewhere. And later on in the game, if you rapid ingress within 3 of it, then you get to do that for free. Which is nice. Definitely puts some stress on your opponent. I think I've only actually used that successfully once or twice.
Successfully, meaning like dropped in on it?
Well, I mean, in order to use it, your opponent has to not be within 9 inches. But if your opponent knows you have the token down, then usually they're going to place something within 6 inches of it.
Well, I mean, at the very least, you get to pressure them into doing a maybe slightly suboptimal thing. Go stand something over there.
Well, the other thing is, if you're going to rapid ingress, like, you really want to rapid ingress so that you can get into close combat. Like, you want to be in, like, a specific location. So, yeah, it's a great thing, but I don't use it effectively very often.
It's probably pretty rare. Yeah. It is a bit of a show of your hand.
Also to notice, they have this Watcher in the Dark rule. Once per battle in any phase, just after a mortal wound is allocated to the Adeptus Astartes model in this unit can summon a Watcher in the Dark. When it does, until the end of the phase, models in this unit have the Feels No Pain 4+ ability against mortal wounds.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, so if you try and mortal wound bomb them, they're just going to Watcher in the Dark you.
So that's kind of weird. The way it's phrased, it says in any phase just after a mortal wound is allocated. So at least one has to hit successfully.
So basically what this means is you can wait until someone is allocating the mortal wounds. And as they're coming in, you can be like, no, I'm going to deny half of these. All right, and then in terms of their weapon profiles, essentially you have one model, the Sergeant model, who can have either a relic weapon or the great weapon of the Unforgiven.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at those 2 profiles later and see which one is better.
The great weapon of the Unforgiven. Okay.
Oh my god, they're so emo. The whole chapter is just so emo. All right, the other choice you have to make is that you can give the entire squad power weapons, 5 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2, or Mazes of Absolution, which are the same profile but with 4 attacks instead of 5, but they have anti-monster and anti-vehicle 4+.
That is pretty sweet.
Yeah. And I will definitely say that as I've been looking around online and looking at some lists, it looks like most people are favoring the maces.
I can see why. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
because they're way more.
It rounds them out, gives them some punch against vehicles.
Yeah, dude. Because I mean, strength 6 means most things you're kicking ass anyway. Mm-hmm. And then the few things that you are going to struggle against, like the tough 9, tough 10, like those, yeah, that could be really sweet. Or toughness 12. If you're going into a land raider, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so that's the common wisdom. You give them the maces so you can round them out.
I'm slightly disappointed by the description of a weapon as just power weapon. But I guess in contrast to Great Weapon of the Unforgiven,
Well,
it
plus
seems
it's-
more stark.
It's damage too. I feel like it should be a master crafted power weapon at least, but it's just power weapon, which I think
Yeah.
is very strange.
Very weird. Anyway.
All right. The other thing that we should take notice of is that they're hitting on 2s, which means if you give them Oath of Moment, it's only going to give them a 16.6% boost to their output compared to something that's sitting on a 3+, which will get a 33% boost.
Okay.
So you can give them Oath, but like Oath is just less efficient with them than with other units because they already hit so well.
And they're a divergent chapter, right?
Yeah, they're a Divergent chapter. And if you're taking the Deathwing Knights, then you're going to get Divergent Oath.
Which means you get just +1 to hit.
Yeah. No, you get to reroll your hits.
Reroll
Which in this
hits.
case is equivalent to rerolling 1s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So another thing I want to mention is Terminators especially love Armor of Contempt.
Yeah, it's the best use of that.
Yeah. So Armor of Contempt has been nerfed. It only works against one attacking unit, but still, if you're saving on 2s, then this is crazy efficient with a lot of things. I mean, against anything with AP1, this literally doubles their durability.
Did it change so now it only works against one attacking unit?
One attacking unit. It's not for the whole phase anymore.
I kind of feel like that's a valid change, especially for something like Deathwing Knights. You're like, yeah, I'm going to budget one command point for that every time.
I will admit, as someone who loves Terminators, I did kind of feel like it was OP. Just like, for the rest of the phase, I'm going to keep this 2 up.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah, especially if you're in cover.
Oh, God.
All right, so just wanted to mention that. A couple of things I wanted to mention. I was looking at some tournament statistics, and I found that the second most used detachment was the Lion's Blade Task Force. And their rule, it affects Ravenwing units, but specifically for Deathwing units, like the Deathwing Knights, units in your army declare a charge. If one or more targets of that charge are within range of one or more Ravenwing units in your army, add 2 to the charge roll. So basically, if you already have some bikes in the combat, you're just going to have an easier time getting the Terminators in.
That is super sweet.
Honestly, I really love this detachment. It looks really fun with all the essentially you're just trying to interweave your Ravenwing and your Deathwing units. So your bikes and your Terminators. I
That's
freaking love it.
pretty
I think it's
cool.
really fun. I read about detachments like this and I'm like, man, I wish I had some of these.
Yeah, having come in as a Blood Angels player, you're pretty hard skewed to just packs and stuff. You don't really have the great variety quite yet.
But I love my jump packs and walkers.
They're cool.
My
They're
Blood
very
Angels are
cool.
not just jump packs. They're jump packs and walkers. I know that's not the most efficient, but they are so freaking cool. It's so anime.
So Attack on Titan, just picture
Yes, Attack on
just
Titan.
between their feet.
Okay, all right. So about the Lion's Blade attachment, there are a couple of enhancements that are pretty sweet that you could attach to some characters that are going with the Deathwing Knights.
Oh yes, the Fulgus Magna.
Yes, the Fulgus Magna. What does this do? This allows you to take a unit off the battlefield and stick it back in reserve. On a Deathwing Knight unit, that seems pretty goddamn sweet.
Once per battle, though.
Once per battle. But what that
still.
means is you can rapid ingress them, attack something, do a bunch of damage, pull them off, rapid ingress them again, do a bunch of damage. Or just reposition them because Terminators are slow as
Right.
molasses. So being able to put them somewhere else is just really nice.
Wow, that Fulgus really.
And then also the Calibanite armaments.
Calibanite.
So you tap to a character and you add 1 to the damage characteristic of their melee weapons, which is pretty awesome.
Holy crap! And they're what, damage 3?
Well, remember, this is on one character. This goes on the character in the squad.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Which is
So-
which for them is probably
You got a couple of options. We're going to talk about them in a few minutes, but like captains, chaplains, whatever you want to stick with them, you just make their melee better.
okay.
Probably by 50% in most cases. That's
With the
just
Calibanite.
a rough guess because I know that a lot of characters have damage to weapons.
It is Calibanite.
Yes, Calibanite. The Italian Dark Angels. All right.
Calibanite.
Also,
They're geologists.
They got a couple of stratagems that are really sweet. Strength and unity in your fight phase. If you've got a Deathwing Knight unit and something is attacking it that has higher strength than its toughness, you can make it -1 to wound.
Oh my god. So
So
with
most
this-
things that want to attack them are probably going to be wounding on 3s. You can make them wounding on 4s now.
So the enemy unit has to be within engagement range of a Raven Wing unit.
Oh, yes. Within engagement range of a Raven Wing unit.
Wow, okay.
But, that could be pretty nice durability boost. And the really scary one, Inescapable Wrath. Basically, when an opponent's charge phase ends, if you have a Deathwing unit that's within 6 inches of one of their units, you can just countercharge. Just go for it. Just charge them in their phase.
What? What? Well, it is 2 CP, which hurts.
And they don't get the charge bonuses, so I don't think that they count as fight first, but still,
They don't care.
they don't care. They're freaking tanky knights.
Yeah.
All right. So this detachment is especially good for essentially maneuverability and improving their durability.
Did I hear you say also that there is only a squad of 5 and not a squad of 10 now?
Yeah, they're only allowed to be taken in squads of 5.
I think that's
250 points.
A squad of 10 would just be like, what's even the point?
I saw a lot of lists that were running 3 blocks of 5 of these guys.
Oh my
That seems
God.
fairly common. That's what I'm seeing.
Oh my God.
I know how to deal with this. We'll talk about how to deal with this later.
Oh.
Yes. But the other detachment that they were commonly running was the Gladius Task Force, and I noticed that 46% of Dark Angel's armies are running the Gladius Task Force, according to statcheck.com, and that's within the last couple of weeks. So I'm sure that will change, but this was by far the most common Dark Angel's detachment, which makes sense. Because, amongst other things, you can have one turn where you just advance all of them in charge. So you can just get all of them into combat. And then you have Honor the Chapter, which is in the fight phase, you can give them Lance. And if the unit is in Assault Doctrine, which you can also always spend a CP to put them into, they also get +1 AP to their weapons, which are already AP2.
Well, remind me what the basic benefits are for Gladius?
So essentially you have a couple of different doctrines that you can declare. You can put them in Assault Doctrine, so army-wide you can advance and charge. You can put them in Tactical Doctrine, which I think is fall back and shoot and charge, or Devastator Doctrine, which allows you to advance and shoot.
Interesting. So basically that's like old school Space Marines.
Yeah, it's their general Space Marines detachment. And then there are some stratagems that just, tag off of each of these doctrines. So like this one in particular is like, hey, if you're in the Assault Doctrine, then this is a super awesome awesome buff.
So we see 2 detachments here, the regular vanilla Space Marines, and then that other one that had all those durability stratagems.
Yeah, I didn't write down the number, but I think it was something like 12% of Dark Angel's lists were using Lion's Blade, and 46% are using Gladius.
Wow.
And then the other ones were just like a smattering of other things. There are a lot of things that are being used, but those were by far the most common.
So these are all top 2 detachment candidates.
Those are the top 2. Especially those are the top 2 that I think work well with the Deathwing Knights in particular.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. All right, so first thing I want to look at is which of these weapons is better, the Weapon of the Unforgiven or the Relic weapon? What's the choice that you take for the target? I'm sorry, for the sergeant. That's what I meant. So what we did was...
I want the Great Weapon of the Unforgiven just because of the name.
Yeah. So if you look at these two things, the biggest difference is the Great Weapon has 5 attacks instead of 6, but it has sustained hits 1 when you're already hitting on 2s, which means basically the same number of hits through on average.
Because as many 6s as you get will be how many 1s you get, and they'll replace.
Yeah, so it's really, really similar. I guess you end up with just slightly less attacks with the Great Weapon of Unforgiven, but essentially the same. The Relic weapon, on the other hand, gets lethal hits and is strength 7.
Okay.
So these two things were actually really, really similar. We tested them against Orcs, Space Marines, Terminators, a Gladiator tank, and a Land Raider. You're going to notice that the Great Weapon did very slightly better against Space Marines and against Terminators, and then the Relic weapon did slightly better against Orcs and Gladiators, and did significantly better against the Land Raider.
Because the lethals.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, the lethals. It's really just a measure of what's better for you. Is it the lethals or is it the devastating wounds? Are you having a harder time getting the wound through, or are you having a harder time getting them to fail their save?
Right.
Is the question. So, honestly, looking at these two things, I see them as being pretty similar unless you're specifically trying to create something that's going to take out heavy vehicles, in which case you go with a relic weapon.
Okay.
But I see these as being pretty darn similar.
Yeah. Okay. You can't really weigh them because I don't really expect that you're going to be able to control what the opponent puts near your knights here.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about one weapon. We're talking about a difference that's less than 15%, less than one number on a dice in terms of proportion.
So,
yeah, basically the same.
Pick whichever. Then, of course, you have to have the big, crazy weapon so you can say, the great weapon of the unforgiven. You have to for that
You have
reason.
to select that so that when your significant other is like hanging out in the other room, they're like, what the is going on? I stopped myself. I was good. All right. The other question is, do we go with the maces or the power weapons for the rest of the squad?
Right. Okay.
So again, the conventional wisdom is to go with the maces. We look at these two things. They are identical, but the power weapon gets an extra attack. The maces have anti-monster and anti-vehicle. So it shouldn't be a surprise that as we're looking at all these infantry targets, the swords are just flat 25% better because they get 25% more attacks.
Right.
Yeah. So that's not a surprise. As we look at vehicles, if you're looking at like medium vehicles, the maces are giving you about a 20% bump because you get 25% fewer attacks, but you also are going to be wounding 50% more.
Right.
But anything that you would be wounding on a 6, like a land raider, now we notice there is actually a significant difference. So the maces are actually 140% better than the swords if you're wounding on 6s normally.
Okay, so the Mace of Absolution should be paired with the Sword of Extremely Unforgiven, or whatever.
Right, that was the conclusion I drew.
Because if you're going into big stuff, those go together. Yeah. Otherwise, you should have power weapon. Oh, come on, who's gonna choose your weapon?
Games Workshop, what the heck? Like,
you can have either Mace of Absolution or power weapon. Like, come on.
Yeah. But I would also like to point out that this is like the damage from the rest of the squad without buffs. This is just normal. But neither of them are doing a ton of damage. You got 2.8 damage with the swords or 6.7 damage with the maces. Yeah, the maces are way better, but I'm still not impressed, to be frank. At least that's my feeling.
So, yeah, again, it's a suboptimal target once you get to the point where these are performing better.
But if you're taking 3 of them, you might just have these up in everyone's faces, so you might just have to face everything. You're not going to get the choice. Your opponent gets the choice. You're slow as molasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, again, common wisdom is take the maces for the flexibility, because you're probably going to be killing the absolute crap out of anything else. Although 2.5 dead Terminators.
But, okay, well, this is a question. Again, I've never played Dark Angels. Are they really out there to try and deal all the damage, or are they just there to occupy space and nothing can friggin' move them?
Well, it's both, because they can take a lot of damage, but they cost a lot of points. So you need something that's going to kill things, too. This unit really has to do both in order to be worth the points. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, so conventional wisdom is flexibility, pick the maces, but you are wondering if maybe the swords.
We'll see. We will see. All right, moving on. So we do have some character options. I think we just have 4. I don't think there are Terminator-named characters for the Dark Angels, but I'm probably wrong.
Well,
I think it's just these 4.
Someone tell us if there is.
All right, so you can take an Ancient Terminator armor. I do want to mention that in the Unforgiven task force, there's the Pennant of Remembrance, which can only be put on an Ancient, and that'll give them a 6-up Feel No Pain. And if they are battle shocked, it gives them a 4-up Feel No Pain. That's the weird attachment where they get better when they're battle shocked. Yeah, it's bizarre.
The weird detachment?
There's a detachment, the Unforgiven Task Force, that wants you to be battle shocked to get all of the cool things.
What?
Actually, you need to be battle shicked, it looks like.
Battle shicked!
Otherwise, the Ancient just gives you +1 OC, so unless you're specifically doing this, whatevs. He also gives you +1 to wound if you are below half strength, but at that point you have 2 models. So,
Yeah.
And the +1 to hit literally doesn't help them because they're hitting on 2s. So I feel like the Ancient Terminator armor is suboptimal.
Suboptimal.
You can take a Captain and Terminator armor who is just generally beastly. especially with some of the enhancements you can give. And cheap stratagems is probably going to be useful on this unit because I assume you're going to be pumping CP into these guys.
Right.
They're expensive. You can take a chaplain in Terminator armor who gives you +1 to wound. That can be really, really nice.
Also making those power swords perhaps less inferior.
Exactly. Take a chaplain, and suddenly those power swords are not looking worse than the maces against even the hardest targets.
Yeah, and still getting more attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, if you're putting a chaplain on it, get the power sword.
Yeah, if you're putting a chaplain on it, take the power swords. There's plenty of reason to take other things, but if you're going that way, take the swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, the regular power swords. Also, you can take a librarian in Terminator armor who just gives you sustained hits, and that's just a +20% buff just across the board. +20%? Right, you're hitting on 2s, +20%.
Right.
So Dem's your options.
Dem's your options. Okay. I'm intrigued by the chaplain and Terminator armor to go with those power swords, even though
I love my chaplains, but
Yeah.
I know I'm biased as a Blood Angels player. And of course, before we move on, comment for the comment gods!
yes, likes for the like throne.
The like throne. So, let's go ahead and take these guys and put them into a couple of targets. We're going to pick the Legionaries first.
You're
Chaos
such a
Legionaries.
butthead.
What? They are toughness 4, 3 up save, 2 wounds apiece. I'm just saying we're taking swords, and I'll talk.
What the heck is that model?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Look at him. He
it's
looks
fine.
so mean and chaosy.
It's fine. I have no. Yep.
So the Deathwing Knights, just naked, going into regular Chaos Space Marine Legionaries, are going to kill between 8 and 11 of them. 10 on average. You have a 99% chance to wipe a 5-man squad, 54% chance to wipe a 10-man squad.
Damn. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty. Oh, I like how you got the pink on the 0 there. Now I'm just here to. Actually, it's the blue on the 1 that I should be roasting you for.
I noticed that just before we started, and I was like, screw it.
It's fine. It's fine.
There's
Okay.
so much stuff to
So they'll
organize.
absolutely myrtleize the crap out of Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, and if you decide to give them Oath of Moment and Honor the Chapter,
Which you would never do.
you might.
No.
So
I just need to kill the absolute
Honor the
tar.
Chapter gives them, again, lethal hits and additional AP. And now they're killing between 16 and 19 Space Marine bodies. No, that's not bad. Let's just say you've got some, what are those Black Templar dudes that just run around with gigantic 20-man blobs?
Oh, yeah, the Crusader squads.
Yeah. This will just waste a Crusader squad, which is
Wow.
pretty nice.
You know, you might Oath of No Moment a big Crusader blob. You're not going to Oath of Moment 10 Legionnaires.
You're not, but if you did, you would just destroy them, killing 16 to 19. Your
Smish.
odds of killing a 10-man squad are 99.96.
What? Oh my God.
So they're dead.
Do we have to even roll this? Can we just move past?
Can we just remove these models? I'd still want to roll it just so I can see how much I killed them by.
Oh, you would.
All right, so again, these are obviously you're killing Legionaries and basic Space Marine bodies. What if you're going into some Terminators?
Probably still pretty good
Yeah, probably still pretty good, but now you're killing 3 to 4 of them.
because of the spillover, right?
Yeah, because of spillover and because of invulnerable saves not going to make a difference. But yeah, 3 wound bodies. They are toughness 5 now. Oh, still wounding on 3s.
Wow, I'm actually really surprised that it's only this good.
Yeah,
Terminators are so
17.6% chance to wipe a 5-man squad.
What are the damage on their weapons again? Can we
Damage
do
2.
all of them are damage
They're
2.
all
yeah.
damage 2.
So that's wasting a lot.
Yeah, but you're right. So what happens if you decide to give them Oath of Moment and play Honor the Chapter again? Again, I'm assuming Gladius, but you might play other things. You could ignore this if you like. But you give them those buffs, and now they're killing 4 to 6 Terminators.
A 67% chance.
67% chance to wipe a 5-man squad.
Okay, well,
But
that's
again,
pretty good.
they need to do some. That's actually still impressive. You're still removing 170 points worth of models in one turn with a unit that's going to be hard to take down. That's the combo.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just the damage they're doing. It's they're going to do this much damage, and you're going to try really hard to remove them, and then they're going to do a good portion of this damage again. But again, you're not just going to be attacking infantry, sometimes you are going to be going into vehicles.
Right.
I wanted to pick a light vehicle. Our buddy Mike Jeff is now playing Tau, so I was like, what did Tau have that I could use? Hammerhead gun tanks. Wait, what are they? Hammerhead gunships. Those are the ones with a giant freaking railgun on top.
Oh, that's the same as the Devilfish, but it has the gun on top.
Mm-hmm. All right, so it's basically a Gladiator Lancer. Toughness 10, 3-up save, but it's got 14 wounds instead of 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's basically a more durable Gladiator Lancer.
Okay.
But
And it has fly.
And it has fly.
That's pretty sweet.
So the Deathwing Knights are going to do between 8 and 14 damage with the swords. And if you took the maces, you would do between 8 and 14 damage. But the median would be 12 instead of 10. So, yeah, I know. I did that on purpose. So with the swords, you're doing an average of 10.5 damage. With the maces, you're doing 11.5 damage, basically.
Wow, okay.
Because in this case, you just have a toughness 10 vehicle. You're normally wounding on 5, so taking the maces just means you're wounding on 4s instead. Mm-hmm. But you get 1 less attack. So the maces are definitely better, but not really by that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Again, you got a 26% chance of wasting this gunship, but you put some buffs on it. Give it Oath a moment.
That's what we're going to see
Give it honor
now?
the chapter.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's honor this.
Think we can kill it?
Oh, yeah. What do you mean, are we going to?
18 to 26 damage.
Oh, just smished him.
Yeah.
Having
Up
sushi
to a
tonight.
96.7% chance to kill this thing.
Oh, my
But
God.
take a look at the expected damage now between the swords and the maces.
Okay. 22 out of the swords and 18 out of the maces. So once you
give them +1 to wound, suddenly it doesn't really make a difference. The maces are actually not helping you anymore.
Right. Okay, so that's what honor the chapter does, is +1 to wound?
So we gave honor the chapter to both of them, which gives them +1 to wound, +1 AP, and then Oath of Moment lets them re-roll their hit rolls. Start stacking all those buffs together, and now the swords actually come out on top.
And remind me, the chaplain also gave +1 to wound, right?
Yeah, or if you had a chaplain in the squad, you would not want to take maces because you get a very similar effect.
Can you get +2 to wound, or is that another capped?
That one's capped. You can only end up with a +1 to wound.
Okay, so you can save all your command points by giving them a chaplain.
Yeah, I do that with my Blood Angels sometimes, where I'm like, I could play Red Rampage, or I could just give them a chaplain and play Red Rampage on something else.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing is like you can only use Honor the Chapter on 1 unit. So if you've got a couple of units of these, maybe you want to put one with the chaplain so you don't have to worry about that.
That makes sense. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. A 96% chance to kill that thing.
They're so mean. All right, so obviously we have to throw these guys into something that's a little bit tougher than a gunship.
Right, obviously.
Yeah.
So like a Land Raider?
Like a Land Raider, but more like something Joseph would run. So a Land Fortress.
Yes, fantastic. Yes, let's kill the crap out of a Land Fortress.
All right, so again, Land Fortress is toughness 12 with a 2-up save, but that toughness 12 is a big break point for these guys since they're strength 6 pretty much across the board.
Are the maces and the swords are strength 6?
The maces and the swords are both strength 6.
Okay, yeah.
So that means the swords are only going to be wounding on 6s, which is kind of rough. So the swords are doing between 2 and 6 damage with a median of 4. And the maces are doing between 6 and 10 damage with a median of 8.
Okay, so now it is making a big difference.
Now it's making a difference. We're going from 5.1 damage all the way up to 8.3 damage.
Which still kind of sucks. That's still half the expected or what you need out of that.
Yeah. I did kind of blunder here. I frequently cut it off once I get below 1% probability. There is definitely a possibility to kill the Land Raider, Land Fortress, with the swords, but it's marginal.
No, that's 14 wounds.
No, it's 16 wounds.
Yeah, and then you have that at 14.
Exactly. So I don't know what the probability is of getting 16.
Oh, you're saying you were missing a line. I
should have included one more line so we knew what the odds were, but probably less than 0.5%.
Yeah, something extremely small.
Yeah, totally. So we definitely see the maces are doing better, but again, the maces are only doing 8.3 damage, which is half of the Land Raider's wounds.
So by the time you get to the point when you're actually attacking something that like would be able to leverage that anti-vehicle, you're throwing them into a suboptimal target.
Totally.
Yeah.
So this is not a matchup that you would choose if you could help it. Mm-hmm. But once we add Oath of Moment and Honor the Chapter in there,
Right, of course. Now they're going to probably do crazy.
now they're probably going to do acceptably well.
Acceptably well. Yeah, so not
So the swords are doing 10 to 16 damage, and the maces are doing 10 to 16 damage. We have mean for the sword of 13.3, mean for the maces of 13.6. So once you throw the buffs on there, it's basically the same.
Oath of Moment is reroll hits?
Reroll hits.
Okay.
But again, you're only going to be rerolling 1 since they hit on 2s.
Right, so that's barely boosting them.
Well, it's like 16%-ish.
Gotcha.
Closer to 17%, I think. But yeah, so, I mean, with all those buffs, the swords have a 33.8%, 33.9% chance. A little better than 1 in 3 of killing the land fortress.
Okay, but again, by the time it's very similar. By the time you get to this point, though, like you're just reaching for whatever resources you got.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like I'm leaning a certain direction already.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I had hoped that you would agree with that. But again, one of the things that's important here is that we're going into something that does not have an invulnerable save.
Okay, so we need something with an invulnerable save.
Like our old friend Mortarion!
Drew!
I love that Drew is just like, yeah, it's just not that tough this edition. But do you think that the Deathwing Knights can take him down?
No,
of course not.
Nothing can take down Mortarion.
No, absolutely not. So the swords now are doing between 2 and 5 damage with a median of 3, and the maces are doing 4 to 7 damage with a median of 7. Sorry, with a median of 5. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, dude. It's not. None of these are going to work well against Mortarion.
Yeah. And I mean, the swords do have a chance to kill Mortarion.
It would be such
0.001% chance to kill Mortarion with the swords.
Which is 1 in
100,000, 1 in 100,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's absurd. This would be such a slugfest. It would just be continuing combat. Boof, 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 nothing going down. Because Mortarion doesn't have great
no,
attack.
He doesn't have great melee output, so they would just sit there locked in combat for the whole game.
Oh my God. Do you remember off the top of your head what the point cost is for Mortarion?
A lot, but honestly not that much more than the Deathwing Knights. I mean, I would guess somewhere like 320 range, something like that.
320 and they're 250?
But they're 250. And they can't even tie him up because he flies, so he can just escape.
Okay, yeah. What a worthwhile.
So if he doesn't want to be there, he doesn't have to deal with them.
Oh my God.
But again, if you're going into a hard target like this, you're going to be buffing them. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens if you include Honor the Chapter and Oath of Moment.
As we do, we always honor the chapter, and we oath all of our moments.
And it's still not looking any of the goods, because the swords are now doing 4 to 9 damage, and the mace is between 5 and 9 damage.
And he has 16 mother flarpin wounds.
Hey, your odds increase, though. Almost a 0.5% chance now.
Which is like a 500-fold increase.
Yeah, if you play all edition, this is possibly going to happen once.
It might happen once.
Yeah.
No, it won't.
But again, I mean, I'm just not seeing very much of a difference between the swords and the maces because, yeah, sure, the maces are better, but I'm not going to sacrifice 25% of my damage against infantry so that when this case comes up, I get an extra 0.5 damage.
Yeah, dude.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
Agreed. And then especially because you can add a chaplain in there, which really invalidates the... Oh, and there was the Honor the Chapter also does the +1 to wound.
It's lance, so yeah, +1 to wound.
Okay. Yeah, dude.
So on in the chapter, I mean, having a chaplain in here would be very similar. Oh, in fact, I think it would be identical because you get +1 AP with Honor the Chapter, but he's going to be saving on 4s no matter what, so it doesn't matter. Wow. This is equivalent to having the chaplain in there.
All right. Well, I've drawn my conclusions. Shall we share our collective conclusions?
All right. On 3, you ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Power swords.
Relic sword. Yeah, those things. Yeah, it's swords. It's definitely swords.
Yeah, power swords all day for sure.
I'm still trying to figure out why everybody's saying maces, though.
Because they're so cool. They're way awesome.
I still think the swords make them look more like knights and therefore makes them look way more awesome.
But it just like it matches the bulky silhouette. And then their weapons are.
Nah, swords are way cooler.
All right.
Tell us what you think. All right. So after we looked at Mortarion, I wanted to spend a little bit of time looking at their durability. How many hits can they actually take?
This is really where the Deathwing Knights shine, right?
Right. Because like the main point is durability. Like they can put out some damage, but the point is to really have something that's hard to remove that puts out a good amount of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I did was I took some various profiles, common profiles, and I just calculated out how many shots on average is it going to take to eliminate the Deathwing Knights. And for a basis of comparison, I also figured out how many shots it's going to take to kill regular Terminators or Assault Terminators.
Okay, so this is approaching this assessment from a bit of a different angle, right? Normally you go, here's my maximum output, how much damage will it do? Now we're just going to pour out infinite damage, infinite attacks, and how many does it take until they're dead?
Exactly.
Right? So in all these simulations, they die.
Actually, for the first five profiles, it's not even a simulation. I just calculated on average how many shots you would need to kill them.
Okay.
So for laser guns, regular Terminators would require, again, this is strength 3, no AP, 1 damage, 270 laser gun hits in order to kill regular Terminator squad, 360 to kill Assault Terminators with hammers or the Deathwing Knights.
Oh my God.
So I'm really mostly comparing directly the Assault Terminators with Thunder Hammers and the Deathwing Knights because they have the same profile. They just lack the minus one damage.
Because they get the +1 to wound or +1 wounds also, right?
Right. They're also 4 wounds because they also have shields. Way smaller and less awesome shields, but they are shields.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. They fit the same niche.
Right. And so again, we just see that the these 4 wound models take 33% more shots to kill because they're just 4 wounds instead of 3 wounds. And the -1 damage doesn't matter against laser guns.
Right. Same with the bolt rifle.
Yeah, bolt rifles, strength 4, AP 1. We see exactly the same thing. It's 180 shots to kill either the Deathwing Knights or the Hammer Terminators, and a quarter less, 135 to kill regular Terminators.
Gotcha.
Plasmas, so like plasma incinerators, if you're not overcharging, 60 shots to kill Deathwing Knights, 60 hits to kill Deathwing Knights, 60 hits to kill Thunderhammer Terminators, 45 to kill the regular Terminators.
Oh, these are all measurements of hits. So this is...
How many hits is required to kill these things?
Okay, and since Guard are mostly hitting on 4s unless they have orders, that's 120. For las guns, so 360, 720. That's a silly number.
Me up. It's like, I mean, how many guard squads do you need to put out 360 laser gun hits?
Oh my God.
So many.
This is why people joke about las guns being flashlights. I think that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Well, 360 flashlights over the course of an entire game.
Oh, my eyes.
Yeah. All right. Once you start getting to damage 2 weapons, that's where you really see the difference, though. So overcharged plasma incinerators, strength 8, AP 3, damage 2. The extra AP doesn't really make a difference. Unless they're in cover or armor of contempt, then it matters.
Right.
But it takes 30 of those hits to kill Terminators or Thunderhammer Terminators, but it's going to take 60, twice as many, to kill the Deathwing Knights because only 1 damage is going through at a time.
Right. You would never overcharge your plasma against them.
Unless they're in cover, and then it doubles the possibility of getting a wound through. I know. It's so frustrating because you're going to overcharge just so you can get that extra AP.
But you'd go from strength 7 to strength 8 and their toughness 5.
Yeah, but the AP, though. If they're saving on 2s...
Gotcha. Right. Mm-hmm. Wow, okay. But still, man, you'd feel sad about having to do that.
I would feel really sad about that.
An autocannon?
Autocannon, that's strength 9, AP 1, damage 3. Again, for damage 3, 4 wound models, it's not going to make a difference. Because even with -1 damage, it's still going to take 2 shots to kill a Deathwing Knight.
2 shots to kill a Deathwing Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Just like it's going to take 2 shots to kill an Assault Terminator with a Thunderhammer.
So damage 1 weapons and damage 3 weapons, it makes no difference so far.
Doesn't make a difference.
Wow, that's kind of weird to think about.
Yeah. Again, the regular Terminators, though, are kind of screwed here because they're one-shot killed by those autocannons.
Oh, yeah, that made a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for the last ones, you could do a bunch of math to calculate exactly how many of these things it would be required to kill Terminators, but because you have damage 6 weapon or damage D6 weapons with the meltagun and the laser cannon, it's just way harder to calculate. And I didn't want to deal with that, so I just simulated it. I literally just took a million meltagun shots, threw it at the knights, found out how many models it killed.
Yeah, well, basically, when you shoot 1,000,000 times, you find out how many died. You have the ratio of shots per number killed.
Yes, exactly. So I did that with the meltagun and the laser guns. The meltagun, strength 9, AP 4, damage D6, takes 20.4 meltaguns to kill a regular Terminator squad. 23.8 meltagun hits. Sorry, hits, not shots. To kill the Assault Terminators with hammers, takes 28.9 hits with the meltaguns in order to kill the Deathwing Knights.
Oof.
So there's definitely a jump up there.
Well, that strength 9 is tragic because they're toughness 5.
Mm-hmm. So they're still only wounding on 5s.
That really sucks when you have to throw a weapon into a target that is 1 shy of the threshold.
Mm-hmm. And then when we look at laser cannons strength 12, so wounding on 2s now. AP 3, so they're still on their invuln save.
Mm-hmm.
Damage D6 plus 1, 14 laser cannon hits to kill regular Terminators, 16 to kill the ones with the Thunderhammers, 19 to kill the Deathwing Knights.
Okay.
So the Deathwing Knights definitely have the most durability across the board, but they're exactly the same durability as the Assault Terminators with damage 1 and damage 3 weapons.
Interesting.
Which are really common. It's really just these damage 2 weapons that really suffer a lot from this -1 damage.
Yeah.
So
and there are a fair few damage 2 weapons out there.
There's a lot of damage 2 weapons, and a lot of the big damage dealers are damage 2 weapons, which is why that's significant. But my point is that it's really only those weapons that this makes a huge difference against.
Yeah, that is so weird. One damage and 3 damage weapons, see them as equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
But a lot of people in the comments asked me to start taking points into account. So I decided I wanted to look at what is their durability per point.
Okay.
Because these have the same durability, but the Assault Terminators with Thunderhammers cost 180 points, whereas the Deathwing Knights cost 250 points.
So that means what we're doing is we're measuring durability per point as compared to specific attack profiles coming into them.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So I wanted the numbers to look reasonable. So the way that I did this is I looked at how many shots does it take to kill 100 points worth of these models.
Okay. So we can compare apples to apples.
Exactly. So if we're looking at the regular Terminators, they were just not fantastic compared to the other two. There was one case where I think they did better than the Deathwing Knights. Right here. Against regular plasmas, they were slightly more points efficient than the Deathwing Knights.
Wow, okay.
But the other thing that really surprised me, is that the regular Assault Terminators with the Thunderhammers were way more points efficient than the Deathwing Knights against everything except for the damage 2 weapons. So the Deathwing Knights were way more efficient against damage 2 weapons. The Assault Terminators were way more cost efficient against everything else.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to get the bang for your buck,
if you're just trying to hold points and not as worried about the damage output, I didn't compare the damage output of the Assault Terminators and the Deathwing Knights.
Because that would have been a whole nother chapter of this analysis.
That's a whole, exactly. So I know that the Deathwing Knights do more damage. They're more threatening in that way, but the Assault Terminators are actually better at holding points for their point cost.
Wow. Yeah, that sounded
Except against the damage 2 weapons. That's a 44% benefit over the irregular assault terminators in that case.
Well, honestly, it makes sense. Like the assault terminators should be more efficient per point with damage 1 and damage 3 weapons if they were not any less durable.
But also damage D6 and damage D6 plus 1 weapons as well.
Wow, okay. Wow.
Not by as significant a margin, but yeah. So basically across the board, more points efficient except against damage 2.
Interesting. And it's worth noting that durability per point is still not the end all, because you may at the end of the day really need specifically that unit to survive, not just how many points do I have left on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So like this does not invalidate them at all, but it definitely makes a case for those assault terminators and using the models you love so much.
Plus, you can take the assault terminators in groups of 10, and you can only take the Deathwing Knights in groups of 5.
Interesting. Oh my God, a brick of 10 assault terminators makes my glutes clench.
I just need to paint up 4 more.
When are you going to paint your chaplain and Terminator armor?
Eventually.
I want to see that guy. From 1982.
He's from the 90s. He's real chunky and awesome looking. All right. Next up, though, I wanted to look into a couple of combos that might work well into the Deathwing Knights.
Okay, so this is the quiver of the silver bullets. I would be tempted to use the word playbook, but I hear you dislike this.
I dislike this because they're all from different factions, so it was just a few different possibilities of things that would work well into the Deathwing Knights. Okay. So the first thing I had to test was the Hellblasters. I know the Hellblasters are not super great. When they're overcharging, then they're actually AP3, which means even if the Deathwing Knights are in cover or play Armor of Contempt, still saving on 4s. If they're not overcharging, they're AP2, and if the Deathwing Knights are not in cover and don't play Armor of Contempt, then they're still saving on 4s. So essentially the way I look at this is if the Deathwing Knights have cover or if they play Armor of Contempt, then you overcharge anyway. Because then you're going to make a difference to their armor save. Because if you go from a 3-up armor save to a 4-up armor save, that's a 50% difference in the amount of damage you expect to do.
Although somebody's going to get to decide whether or not to use Armor of Contempt after you've already declared your shooting. So you can't really use that. But if they're in cover.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you can try and bait it out. You know if it's available or not. I mean, you can play some mind games there.
Yeah, bait it out.
Also, so here's what we got. The Hellblasters have all of these plasma incinerators. They get 2 shots apiece, hitting on 3s. If they're overcharging, strength 8, AP 3, damage 2. We are going to assume they're overcharging just because they're going to do more damage, and we're going to see what that looks like. As we discussed in my previous video, it's really nice to pair them with a lieutenant because he will give them lethal hits.
And that's going to matter here.
That's going to matter here. Although you're going to be wounding on 3s, so it's not as efficient as if you were shooting up against something that was tougher. But I mean, this was the combo I discussed earlier, and I love the lieutenant with the Hellblasters, so I feel like it's worth it.
Okay.
Oh, and we're going to go ahead and give them Oath of Moment too, because why not?
Oh, of moment.
You got it. All right. Even while overcharging them, Hellblasters are not looking super awesome.
Ooh. Yeah. Wow, the whole middle 50% of the data says 2 models.
Yeah. You basically get to kill 2 Deathwing Knights, somewhere between 8 and 11 damage. Yeah, you're going to notice your odds of killing 2 is 76%. Your odds of killing 3 is 16%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you have a 0.001% chance of wiping the squad.
And your 2 damage weapons are 1 damage weapons.
And they're going to end up being 1 damage apiece.
And you went from strength 7 to strength 8, meaning you didn't get anything better in the wound.
That's right.
And you got 1 better AP, which is only beneficial if they're in cover.
So it doesn't actually benefit them here.
Yeah, no, definitely not going to overcharge against them.
But I wanted to know what would happen if the Deathwing Knights got cover and also played Armor of Contempt. Now overcharging does matter because they're going to be saving on 3s rather than 2s. And again, that's a 50% damage increase.
Right.
So if the Deathwing Knights start playing their defensive stratagems, I forgot about this part. People asked me to take points into account. So I wanted to calculate how many points of combo, essentially, do you get per killed model.
Right.
So this whole combo is 230 points for the Hellblasters and 65 points for the Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
They got on average 1.9 kills. That's 153 points of investment per dead Deathwing Knight.
Oh my gosh.
Not super great.
No.
Yeah. So if they play Oath of Moment and they're in cover, it's going to get even worse. Because now you're going to kill between 1 and 2 of them. Between 5 and 9 damage. You have no hope, basically, of wiping the squad.
Okay, so we started this with you saying you had some good ideas for things that would be good against them. Can I assume that this was for contrast?
Yeah, we're building up. So this was the first thing that occurred to me. I was like, actually, Plasma's really not that bad into them. And I did this, and I'm like, well, for the points investment, maybe not so much. So their points per killed model now actually goes down to, well, up to 212 points of invested 212 invested points per killed Deathwing Knight. I mean, that's still just in one round of shooting. So, I mean, you would expect them to get multiple rounds of shooting, but even if you're doing this all game long, they're only barely making their points worth. So this is probably not the way to go.
Yeah, no, very definitely not.
So let's look at some other combos. Another one that I looked at that a lot of people told me can kill anything was the Sternguard veterans in the Librarius Conclave.
Now that seems like it would do well.
That does seem like it would do well. So it's we've got all these Sternguard veterans. They've got all of their devastating wound shenanigans. I think I actually forgot to include their data sheet. So here's their data sheet. right here on screen now. Yeah. But what's critical about them is that they get to re-roll their wounds against the Oath of Moment target. They have devastating wounds. So if you're re-rolling wounds and you have devastating wounds, that's really going to help you get through that armor save. If you are in the Pyromancy discipline, then you get to improve the armor penetration of anything within 12 inches by 1. So they're going to be AP2 instead of AP1 for those that don't end up being devastating wounds, which will be, what, half of them most of the time? Because you're going to be wounding on 5s. So your 5s get an extra, will be AP2, and your 6s will be dev wounds.
Okay.
Yeah. If you give your librarian the Fusillade enhancement, then they also get sustained hits 1, but they don't get the anti-monster 5-up and anti-vehicle 5-up, which is part of what makes this combo so nice. So they're only going to have devastating wounds on 6s, not on 5s and 6s like they would against vehicles.
Okay, so the Fusillade here is designed for you to attack the vehicles and the monsters, so you can't use it quite to its max.
Right, but you still get the sustained hits 1.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have just like the librarian stuff. So the focused Witchfire, which also has devastating wounds, which is really nice in this case.
What's the damage on that one? It's just slightly clipped for me.
Oh, it's D3.
D3.
So it would effectively be D3 minus 1.
Oh, cool.
So usually 1, sometimes 2. It is strength 6 AP2, though. That's going to be kind of nice into this particular target.
Right.
All right, what do you think? Can they take down the Knights?
I think, is it a 10 blob?
Oh, yeah. We're talking about a 10 block. All of these combos are going to be maximum squads. So 10 Sternguard veterans and the librarian in the Librarius Conclave in the Pyromancy discipline.
I think there's a pretty good chance they might do pretty well.
Sweet. Oh, yeah. Also, Oath of Moment, obviously, because that's what gives them the reroll wounds.
I love how that came in the same way you said.
I know. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. So 10 Sternguard veterans with the librarian in the Librarius discipline with the Fusillade enhancement are going to kill 4 or 5 of them, doing an average of 19.7 damage and killing an average of 4.5 models.
Wow.
That's pretty sweet.
Holy buns.
So they can usually wipe or neuter the squad. So that's pretty nice.
Wipe or noodle.
Wipe or noodle.
They'll noodle the crap out of them.
I do numbers. Okay. And again, as I forgot on the last one, I did do the calculation to figure out how many points do you have to invest in this combo per killed model.
It's probably not terribly inefficient.
Yeah, so I think for, what was it, for Hellblasters, it was 153?
Uh-huh.
All right. For Jesus. For the Stern Guard veterans and the librarian, it's 59 points per kill.
Wow.
That is much better.
Wow, that is definitely a candidate for a silver bullet. I see our first silver bullet.
Yeah. I will say though that the Deathwing Knights are probably going to want to play going to play Armor of Contempt, or have cover. And so if they were able to max out that buff, still doing 13.2 damage, killing an average of 2.9 models, so 2 or 3.
So they'll save like one more-ish? 1.5?
Well, 4 to 5 down to 2 or 3. That's not fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty effective.
He lost almost half of that. Now their points per kill goes all the way up to 91 points per kill. So obviously this is not the last combo we're going to look at. I think that we have a couple of better options.
Yeah, I really hope so.
And as you will remember from our last Simulate the Comments video, so I really appreciate this tip, we have Terminators with lightning claws.
Oh, yeah.
Most specifically with a Librarian and Terminator armor in the Liberator Assault group for Blood Angels.
Okay, so this is a silver bullet that requires you use a Blood Angel detachment.
Well, the Blood Angels are really going to help because it gives you an extra attack and +2 strength. But what's nice about the lightning claws is that they are strength 5, so already wounding on 4s. They're twin linked. You get 5 attacks apiece, hitting on 3s, AP2, damage 1. So even if it's not in Liberator Assault Group, this seems like a pretty decent profile to go after them.
Yeah.
Because their extra benefits are not going to stop you with this damage 1 profile.
Right, and strength 5, so you're already getting that 4 up.
Yeah.
And AP2 maxes them out in close combat.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is pretty much perfect.
And oath of moment.
Yeah, well, okay, so the whole combo is this. You got to be in Liberator Assault Group because then you get +1 attack and +2 strength. So these become 6 attacks at strength 7, re-rolling wounds. And then Red Rampage is going to give you +1 to wound.
Okay.
Which is pretty nice. It can also give you lethal hits, but I really feel like it's not worth it here, especially because it's going to require you to battle shock your unit. So we left that off.
Okay, so with that combo, you're going from wounding on 4s to wounding on 2s.
Yes, and re-rolling them.
Yeah,
that's pretty
that
sweet.
stings.
And then we got the Librarian themselves, who's got a combi weapon, which we're not going to be looking at. The Smite with focused Witchfire, a force weapon, and contributes sustained hits 1.
Okay.
Which is just going to be a flat 25% boost to their output.
Using the Veil of Time.
The Veil of Time and the Oath of Moment with Red Rampage and the Liberator Assault Group. Yes, exactly. What do you think? Can we do it?
I mean, what? Kill them?
Can we kill them? And
I
again,
have no idea.
as a reminder, we're using a 10-man, so we're maxing out these squads. This is a 10-man blob of Terminators with lightning claws.
That are wounding on 2s and
Librarian.
re-rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And re-rolling
Hitting
hits.
on 3s and re-rolling.
Yes, I say this is the thing that'll do it. This should murderize
All right, let's
them.
find out. We're going to kill between 8 and 10 of them, and they only come in squads of 5.
Wow. You have
Doing 33 to 40 damage. You have a 99.98% chance to wipe this unit.
holy crap.
Yeah. I am super stoked about this.
That is a silver bullet.
And while the Librarian is contributing here, notice that 32, almost 32 and a half of these damage come from the Lightning Claws. So
Wow.
even if you had a 5-man squad, that would be 16 damage from the Lightning Claws. Still almost enough to wipe the squad by themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that is, well, yes.
So this is massive overkill. After I ran this, I was like, all right, well, with the Librarian and with a 5-man squad, you're already odds on to kill this squad.
Really?
Yes. Because that's going to be 16 and then 4.5 more. So you're going to do 20 and a half damage on average with a 5-man squad.
And there's 4 times 5, 20.
20 wounds in the squad.
5 assault terminators with lightning claws in Liberator Assault Group with Red Rampage and with the librarian
In Oath of Moment.
have a odds on, meaning 50-50 shot of wipe.
Somewhere in the ballpark of 50-50 odds, yeah.
Wow.
You want to see what the cost in points per killed model is?
I feel like a 5-man squad and a librarian's got to be pretty much the same price.
Well, this is a 10-man squad in the librarian?
No, as the 5 Deathwing, 250.
Oh, well, let's see here. It's 360 points for the assault terminators.
Oh, because there's 10 of them.
Yeah.
No, there's 5 of them in this one. No.
We're maxing out every squad. So 75 points for the librarian with 8.79 killed on average. That's 49 points per kill.
But that also gives you points for the overkill, right?
That's true. But we're just saying, like, general trends. That's 49 points per kill. This is the first time we get below the 50 points per model for the Deathwing Knights.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And that's in one turn.
That is mean.
But, of course, there is, of course, the possibility that they are in cover for the Smite attack and the Bolter, and that they take Oath of Moment for close combat. So we're going to see what happens if they get cover in range and and Armor of Contempt in close combat. There we go.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to be maxing out their defensive buffs. I'm assuming they're not going to use Armor of Contempt at range because there's only a few attacks coming in.
Right.
So do you think we can still kill them?
Yes.
Yes, we can. 5 to 7 models still die.
So even if they Armor of Contempt, they just can't.
And they're in cover. They still won't survive this. Well, they will survive this about 13% of the time.
Damn.
Finally.
I guess I was kind of imagining these were going to get added to the list alongside Mortarion as just nothing can shift them, but I'm blown away. This is... Mm-hmm. All right. Well, when I start running my Space Marines,
they don't have a feel no pain. They instead have this -1 damage. So if you've got a bunch of damage 1 attacks, you're just getting right through that.
And the Watcher in the Dark only works on mortal wounds.
Yeah, doesn't help you at all here.
Wow.
So even if they max out their defensive profile, this is still only going to be 76 points per kill, which is still much better than everything else we've looked at so far.
Oh, 76 points per kill if they use Armor of Contempt.
Yeah, and get cover.
Got it.
This is not the best combo I found, though.
Oh my gosh, are you serial?
I found one better. Now, I had to go poking around a little bit because I think the Codex just came out today.
You just look at your watch to determine that?
What day is it? I don't know what day it is. But I think that was today. So the last thing I want to look at is what if you take Jane Czar and 10 Howling Banshees?
Because they have
from the brand new Codex, and you put them in the Aspect Hosts detachment. So here's what we got. You ready for this? And by the way, a lot of these images were stolen from Aspect Tactics. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your hard work.
If you don't
watch him, you're messing up. You should go watch his stuff. It's really good.
The chances of someone following this channel and not Auspex is probably
practically zero, but that's okay. So thank you, Auspex. So here's what we got. Right. So the Banshees themselves all have shuriken pistols, which not really remarkable. But they all have Banshee blades, which have anti-infantry 3-up, which is going to be really, really useful here. They only get 2 attacks, but they're hitting on 2s, strength 4, but that doesn't matter. AP 2, which is ideal. And they're damage 2, which is unfortunate. But we will address that. The Exarch can have an Executioner or Mirror Blades, but I'm assuming Executioner. Mm-hmm. Also anti-infantry 3-up, 3 attacks hitting on 2, strength 6, again, doesn't matter. AP 3, damage 3.
Okay.
They also have acrobatics, so they can advance and charge in addition to their stupidly long move of 8 inches already.
Jesus.
They are eligible to declare a charge at a turn in which they fell back. In the Aspect Host detachment, they can choose to either reroll 1s to hit or reroll 1s to wound. Doesn't actually make a difference which one you choose here. I think rerolling the wound gives you slightly less variance, but statistically they should work out the same. So I actually put it on the hits.
Okay.
Just because. it's basically going to be a 16.6% buff either way. But what's really important is they have a stratagem, Warrior Focus, which allows you to ignore all modifiers to BS, weapon skill, strength, AP, or damage of their attacks, which means you spend 1 CP, and now you are getting 2 damage and 3 damage through at a time.
Wow.
And then we add in Jane Czar, who actually does not do quite as much damage as the squad, but at range, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, AP 2, damage 1, just some chip damage there. But her main attack with the Blade of Destruction is anti-infantry 3 up. She gets 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, but again, wounding on 3s, AP 3, damage 2.
Okay.
Oh, and she allows the Banshees to auto-advance 6, so they get to move 8, advance 6, and then charge. And with a battle focus move, they can move 10, advance 6, and then charge.
What the? They're a missile.
Yeah. All right, so now we actually have a bunch of multi-wound damage going through that won't be reduced.
So this is going to really wreck
You
them.
ready for this?
This is 10 Banshees and Jane Czar
10 Banshees
in
and
the
Jane
Path
Czar.
of a Warrior aspect host.
Mm-hmm.
Or that.
Which, by the way, is
aspect
less than
host.
300 points.
Oh.
They're going to kill between 7 and 10 of them.
Whoa.
So they're going to do something fairly similar to the Terminators.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So between 31 and 44 damage, they're going to kill this 5-man squad 95.8% of the time.
Wow.
Killing an average of 8.25 models if that many existed.
Wow.
Yeah.
There might be a chaplain on there. With the chaplain, they could, that'll
Kill extra stuff.
kill more stuff.
They might kill more things. That's true. They could also kill a character.
Wow, those howling banshees are mean.
Yeah.
They're also my favorite Eldar
I
aspect.
love them. But it's 180 points for the Banshees, 105 points for Jane Czar. They're killing 8.257 Terminators. That's 35 points per kill now.
And now the certainty of you getting this onto your target is so much greater.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine trying to get your 10 block of assault terminators on them. That's going to be really rough.
Mm-hmm.
But
What
getting
is that?
these
Average
on
threat
there?
range of 21 inches, I think.
Yeah, well, these guys are walking that. These guys not even jogging yet. They're going, holy crap, that is your absolute, that's your murder machine right there.
Yeah. And you know what? I have a second simulation for what if they get cover in Armor of Contempt. Oh, I forgot to mention something really cool. If you don't include Jane Czar, so if we just subtract Jane Czar's damage from this,
She's more efficient.
they're actually more efficient without Jane Czar into this target at 26 points per kill.
Oh,
That's like half the cost of a Deathwing Knight. I love this. This makes me so happy.
you would like this.
I love my Banshees so much.
Oh my
Again,
God.
I've got a bunch of Banshees from the 90s that are metal and hilarious looking, but I love
This
them.
guy loves his old retro Warhammer minis.
I had them all since I was a little kid. I liked them.
They know
They
me.
were my childhood toys, literally. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, I did run one more simulation where I was like, what if they have cover and Armor of Contempt? But I realized something.
What's that?
Even if that happened, they would still do between 5 and 7 killed models, which still totally kills the squad, no problem. But I think Armor of Contempt modifies the AP characteristic of the attacker, doesn't it?
Which is something that is ignored by that stratagem.
Which is something that would be ignored by that stratagem, which means they can't even get to this point. They're stuck here.
Wow.
I am so happy about the new Eldar Codex. I do wonder if this is going to get nerfed at some point, though, because the Banshees seem pretty sweet. With 2 attacks, they're not awesome into every target. Like, they definitely have some things they're better into than others. But they're really, really good into multi-wound infantry.
Yeah. And also, are they still on 28 millimeter bases?
Yes.
You could fit 10 Banshees in half the space
Oh,
of
man.
5 Deathwing
Yeah,
Knights.
you just pack them in real tight into a little ruin, and you are good.
I hate that.
There is one thing that's important to notice, though. Well, these are like basically twice as points efficient into the Deathwing Knights as the Assault Terminators are. These guys will not survive a swing back.
Oh, yeah, no, not a
So
chance.
the Terminators, after they kill the Deathwing Knights, are still going to be a pain to remove. These guys, you just have to blow on them real hard.
They're just paper.
Yeah. I mean, Jane Zara at least has an invuln and a 2-up save, but they're not going to survive another turn after this. So I don't know.
Yeah, so
But
that 26 points starts to look a little different when
Yeah.
it's all lost after this, whereas your 10 Assault Terminators are chilling. They're like, whatevs.
But again, I mean, if we're looking at the Banshee damage by itself, I mean, the Banshee Blades, 23 damage. Yeah, they don't even need Jane Zara to finish off this squad, and they are only 180 points.
Holy mackerel. So basically what you're telling me is anybody who's going into a tournament should have a 10-man Banshee squad.
I don't know if I can go that far. I still have to play with it a bit. Having 10 of them on the field all in one spot seems like a big points investment for something that could literally just get wiped out with indirect fire.
That's a good point. I
So-
just shot your dudes with my Boomdaka Snaz Wabbin.
Yes,
Wabbin.
killed them all.
Yeah. So much Boomdaka. Boom
So,
Taco.
It is hard to say. Still trying to figure out the best way to run them. I think my favorite way so far is the 5 Banshees and Janes are in the Falcon, because Falcon can protect them, and when they jump out, if Falcon shoots at the same target, they also get to reroll their wound rolls. So I feel like that would be pretty good damage output and a lot more protected. I don't know about running 10 of them together, but if you did,
Yeah.
this is what you can
the
expect.
Deathwing Knights will absolutely melt.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun looking at the Deathwing Knights. They can do a lot of damage. They are incredibly tanky, but there are a few things that if you find just the right combo, cuts right through that armor and that damage reduction,
Yeah,
which
dude.
I rather like.
And I think the Deathwing Knights, can we take a moment to recognize that they're the frickin' coolest Terminators the whole world's ever seen?
They really are.
Are you going to get some as your Assault Terminator stand-ins?
I might. It's going to be really annoying to like file off all of their iconography, especially at least from the shields. The shield cannot have a bunch of Dark Angel stuff on it.
Really?
I really love these models, but it's a question of can I actually make them look like they fit in with mine. I think they would look really, really good as stand-ins for the Thunderhammer Terminators. But we'll see.
A mace is just
I
a
already
hammer.
have a sufficiently large pile of shave anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, okay, well,
Yeah.
there's if you needed a couple silver bullets for your quiver to point the mixing analogies now.
Yeah, just go make some friends with some Xenos. You'll be fine. They'll take care of you.
They will.
And
Get some-
in the meantime, it has been a long day for Dano and I. So we're going to go play some video games. You want to go play some Last of Us?
No, I want to play Rocket League.
Rocket League!
Yeah, I'm going to kick your butt.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye, Warp Feeds. It was fun. Yeah.
Thank you for watching another episode of Warhammer Math.
For the Emperor!
Welcome back, Warp Fiends. Today on Warhammer Math, we're going to be cracking the toughest nuts in all 40K. Those other things that I was just talking about.
The Deathwing Knights.
The Deathwing Knights.
Love it.